Here, the new grouping of India, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and of course the U.S. They're calling it the I2U2. It's set to unveil now. There's a summit going on today. At least this is what we were chatting about earlier. It's set to unveil a $2 billion food security initiative that would be setting up agricultural parks in India with funding from the UAE during its. It would be the first virtual summit that's taking place today. Now participating again, the U.S. President Biden, Prime Minister Lapid, Prime Minister Modi from India, and the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed, all delivering speeches at that summit as well. But we are joined by a guest from Mumbai. Here we have, thank you for being with us here. I see Anat Bernstein-Reich, and if I have this right, you are the chairperson of the Israel-India Chamber of Commerce here. So obviously you are in a position to know a lot about what's going on between the relations in these countries here. Looking at today, is this just the latest step forward? I'm going to frame it this way. I know this is a bigger picture, but in terms of involving India and Israel, another good step forward in the relations.
It's a great step forward in the relations. Israel and India this year, as you all know, celebrate 30 years of diplomatic relations. We have a new relations with the UAE. US is our greatest ally. US-India, great friends with a joint, I would say, enemies or opponents. So it was just natural for this quad to happen. And I think we have common interests, common needs, and I'm very happy, and I'm now in Mumbai, as you said, and the sentiment towards this meeting is very positive. I just came from a signature of an agreement between Israel and Indian company that is supportive of those relations. So India is very positive. The street in India is very positive towards this quadrilateral relations of this I2U2, as we call it.
Do they like President Biden in India?
Very much so, actually. Biden was, as we all know, the vice president of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a great friend of Modi. And with Modi, you know, if Modi likes someone, he hugs him very warmly. And you can look at the hugs of Modi and Barack Obama. They were best of friends, and Biden was always here in his Obama tenure. So Modi feels very comfortable with Biden, having, of course, Kamala Harris as the vice president, coming out South Indian origin. So the relations between India and U.S. are, I would say, the best that ever been between those two nations. So it's just a natural ally, as I said, to include also Israel and UAE in this pact of relations and joint interests.
Another major geopolitical issue. I mean, Russia and India have strong ties as well. Russia providing a lot. I'm not an expert on the scope of it, but a lot of relations there economically between those countries. How might India respond, or how might they fit into the picture of what the U.S. is trying to build, this sort of pressure campaign on Russia right now? Is that an issue between the countries, between the U.S. and India?
Of course, it's an issue, but I think that U.S. understands that Russia is the largest supplier of defense equipment to India. India has its challenges with China. So U.S. understand that they're allowing India to sit on the fence and not interfere. And U.S. understand that U.S. needs strong India. And strong India, what to do? It needs ammunition from Russia, because the Indian army is based on Russian equipment. We cannot ignore it. We cannot change it over a day. Of course, Israel will benefit from the problems in Russia, and we will provide more equipment to India. But at the moment, we all know that India and Russia are inseparable, and the U.S. knows it. They also declared it, and they are not pushing India to be very clear against Russia. And that's how I believe it will continue.
Now, this conference today in Israel, I mean, focused on food and obviously the grain supplies worldwide in connection to the war, and Russia certainly, and India been a big part of this. Has been an issue, global issue right now. India stopping exports. Where does that issue, the issue of grain and food, how does that fit into this whole equation right now? How important for India and the world at large to solve these issues?
India is now 1.4 billion people. There was an Economist report of last week that next year, actually, India will be greater than China in population. And Modi understands that he needs to feed all those the people here. So it is in the interest of Modi to create an alternative to, of course, a food that comes from Russia. Israel has several excellent centers in agriculture in India. It's not a new concept, but of course, with the US funding and UAE intervention, it can be a larger scale project. And Modi has people to feed and also election in 2 years. So he needs to show that he is providing to his people with all the challenges that he is facing. Food should be the least of his worry. And I think that this pact will help him towards his mission to feed 1.4 billion people.
That's a lot of mouths, yes. To bring it back home to the core issue, and certainly one that you're overseeing here now, Israel, India, Prime Minister Modi and former Prime Minister Netanyahu here also had a very close relationship, evident to all that saw them taking their barefoot walks on the beach or wherever it was here. So that was a good working relationship there. How's this new Israeli government, whether it be Bennett or Lapid, have they also seemingly embraced Modi and India in a similar way, or being embraced, I should say, the other way around by India?
So the way I look at it is that the relations between Israel and India are beyond the leadership. It's the people. Now, Modi met Bennett in Glasgow. Bennett was, Prime Minister Bennett was, former Prime Minister, was supposed to travel to India a few months ago. We had COVID and it was canceled. Dr. Jay Shankar was a guest of Lapid, if you recall, in October in Israel, and they had very good relation. Dr. Jay Shankar, of course, the foreign minister of India. So the relations is beyond the people that are in power, whether it's Lapid or Bennett or Mr. Netanyahu, the relations will continue. It is strong. We are getting it stronger. The trade between Israel and India got stronger this year, and we are anticipating it to grow. They are now about to sign a free trade agreement, which will also, I would say, double, but can triple the trade between the countries. With Russia in problem, the Israeli defense trade, Israel-India defense trade will grow. So I'm very optimistic about those relations, and whatever will happen here in November, I don't think that it will impact the bond between the two nations, Israel and India.
Anat Bernstein-Reich from the Israel-India Chamber of Commerce in Mumbai. Thanks for joining us.